that was my experience in hiring my first assistant. And that was a key hire because it gave me a lot of my time back. I almost didn't know what to do with myself. But the time that I was used to spend organizing Excel spreadsheets, I was now spending on the phone talking with sellers. Naturally, my deals went up. And then we ended up eventually getting to that next stage for the next hire.
You're asking yourself, why am I doing this?
Smart people would know how to use all these different tools.
You start with something small.
You'll never get your entire organization if you don't pull off operations. Don't give up.
It can be as small as that.
I think you guys are going to have our last today.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Delegate That podcast, where we discuss the art and science of delegation, business management, and leadership. I am, as always, your host, 𝗟𝗶𝘀𝗀𝗃, and today I am really looking forward to having another conversation with Chris Logan. Chris, I just recently had you on the 𝗫𝗫𝗀 podcast, and I said, man, you've got a lot of this delegation, this creation, the setting of processes and systems up that you've done so well in your business. Why don't you come over and chat with me on the Delegate That side of the house? So really looking forward to chatting with you a little bit on this side. So while we have you, can you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about your business, please?
Sure. Yeah, Adam, thanks for having me back, man. I appreciate it. Always love being on your podcast. Lots of great conversations, and just looking forward to kind of sharing my journey. So for those of you guys who are listening who don't know me, my name is Chris Logan. I've been in real estate for the past 13 years, specifically real estate wholesaling. And around 5 years into my journey, I decided to go virtual 2 years before the pandemic. And for any of you guys who are listening who don't know what wholesaling is, it's simply matchmaking a motivated seller with a motivated buyer and then keeping the money in the middle. So if we have a seller that's looking to sell for $150 and we have a buyer that wants to buy for $160, in 2 to 4 weeks, once the deal closes, we make the difference between those two prices. So it's all about finding distressed, motivated sellers who are looking to sell for a discount. And the great thing is, like I mentioned, I went virtual in my journey, and you can do this from home. You can sit at home, find motivated sellers, pair them up with motivated buyers, and make massive paydays. So that's what I'm really passionate about. Doesn't require any of your own personal money to get the deals done. You don't have to buy the properties. And again, you can do this from home anywhere in the country. So that's really what I'm passionate about. We've done over 600 deals in the past 13 years we've been doing this, and we grew our business to over 7 figures, hired out with a team, and now I'm completely pulled out of the day-to-day. I have a team that puts deals under contract and gets deals sold, and life is good. So looking forward to sharing my journey, how we got there. We didn't start there, but I'm looking forward to sharing that journey.
No, that's really awesome. I mean, the 600 deals, 13 years. I mean, that's a pretty awesome trajectory, and bringing it to over 600 or over 7 figures annually. That's not an easy feat to do.
Do you feel overwhelmed with mundane tasks that eat up your valuable time? It's time to reclaim your schedule and focus on what truly matters. Get your time back with elite remote talent without a time zone hassle. Delegate $10 an hour tasks to focus on more $1,000 an hour tasks. Schedule your free strategy call at 𝗺𝗫𝗁𝗚.io.
So I want to rewind a little bit, because obviously, like you said, you didn't start there. So I do kind of want to see what it would look like when you started, and then bring me from when you started to that 7-figure point. What did it look like for you? What did it look like for the team, your systems? How did you kind of start developing things to get to that 7-figure point?
Yeah, great question. So when I first started, I knew I wanted to get into real estate. I just didn't know how. So I went to like a 3-day event where they kind of broke down all the different types of ways you could get into real estate. They went over fix and flipping, landlording, development, all these things. And the one strategy that really stuck with me was wholesaling. They basically said you could take a piece of paper, a purchase agreement that you sign with a seller, you could flip it to a buyer, and from there, kind of play matchmaker and make the money in the middle. So when I heard that, it was amazing, because I was bouncing back from my own setback, and I saw it as my perfect opportunity to get into real estate. I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I didn't have all this money, all these connections. All I had was a desire to be successful in real estate. Heck, I was even living in a new town and I didn't even know anybody. And so I was literally starting over from square one. So it started out by me learning this strategy from a proven mentor. Then from there, hitting the ground running. And I'd love to say it took 24 hours for me to get my first deal. Didn't happen. It took 6 months for me to land my first deal with lots of hustle, lots of ups and downs along the way. And then after I got my first deal, continued that hustle till I was doing deals consistently. And then eventually it just got to a point in our business where the day-to-day was eating me alive, right? Like I was downloading lists of motivated sellers, uploading lists of motivated sellers to my direct mail campaigns or my dialer that I was using to make the calls. I was, scheduling appointments with homeowners, scheduling appointments with buyers, going to networking meetings, and you only have so many hours in the day, right? So one of the first things that I did to get back some breathing room was make my first hire. And that first hire is the number one hire that you should make if you're just starting a business. So if you're starting out in the beginning, you're hustling to make that money first, you land that first deal, your very first hire should be an executive assistant. And that's what my hire was. So with that executive assistant, and that's a fancy name for someone overseas. I think I paid her like $3 an hour, $4 an hour, and it was someone in the Philippines, and they just took a lot of the admin tasks off my plate, so I could focus on two things: talking with sellers and closing deals.
Awesome. Yeah, the taking that stuff off your plate. It's one of those do what you're best at and delegate anything else, right? So how did you kind of get to that point where you knew what to delegate? And then one of the difficulties that people have is once they bring somebody on, they're like, well, I don't really know how to give all of this to them, because there's a difference between knowing that you need to and then knowing how to do it. So how did you kind of structure this passing off of these duties to somebody else?
Yeah, that's a great question. I remember, I think I listened to a podcast or I downloaded someone's guide or something like that back early on in my journey. And they kept talking about how you needed, I forget who it was, but they kept talking about how you needed an executive assistant. You needed, could have been Joe McCall, I don't know. But anyway, so I took that information and I was like, you know what? I do need an executive assistant, right? And so all I did, this person said to write down a list of all the tasks that you do day to day that do not involve you directly making money. That's any tasks that you're doing that take up time in your day that's not talking with a seller or closing deals, right? Or talking with buyers, right? So I wrote down all these tasks, right? And so what I then started doing is I then started putting together a little job description, and I went on a website called Upwork.com. And I posted a little job description. It was not fancy. It was not good. I just said, I'm a local real estate investor looking to hire an admin assistant. Here are the tasks that you'll be doing, right? And let's set up an interview to where I could talk with you about it and see if we're a fit, right? So what I did is I took all those things and then I started having people reach out. And I was like, okay, what do I do? What do I do next, right? And so I simply went through their profile. And here's a quick interviewing hack that you can do. One of the ways that I kind of sifted through applicants, because when you post an ad on Upwork, you're going to get like 100 people apply for that job, right? So a really cool tip that you can do, especially when you're looking to hire someone for like a detailed position, like an executive assistant, where they're supposed to catch like little details that you're going to miss. You put a sentence in the job ad that says something like, send your resume along with your favorite color, along with letting me know what your favorite color is, right? So what happens is you're going to get a lot of people who simply respond to the ad. They don't send their resume and they don't respond with their color, or they respond with their color but not the resume. All those people are immediately done, like disqualified, right? DQ'd. So then what I do is I take a look at all the people who responded with the resume and their favorite color, and then I shortlist that group of people, right? And so that takes that huge list of applicants and brings it down to like a really small list, right? So you probably have like 5 or 7 people at that point, right? Then what I do is I decided to give a tiebreaker task. So I interviewed all those people and then basically wanted to see if there was any scheduling conflicts or anything like that. And then when I found like the 3 people that didn't have any scheduling conflicts, weren't working another job with another person, and I felt like they'd be spread too thin. And I felt like they were the best fit for the tasks and had the most experience in the areas that I needed. The next thing was to give a tiebreaker task, right? So I just basically took one of the tasks that I would want someone to complete, something very detail oriented, something with Excel is perfect, right? Like organizing this list, download this list, format it this way, right? And whoever did it, the fastest and the most accurate, that was who I ended up going with. And so that was a really good lesson in hiring my first assistant. And looking back now, I probably piled on way too much on that person's shoulders in the very beginning, but it's part of the learning process, you know? And so that was my experience in hiring my first assistant. And that was a key hire because it gave me a lot of my time back. I almost didn't know what to do with myself. But the time that I was used to spend organizing Excel spreadsheets, I was now spending on the phone talking with sellers. Naturally, my deals went up. And then we ended up eventually getting to that next stage for the next hire.
For sure. And when you're able to tangibly see that difference, like it feels so good to go, holy crap, I've got more time now to do the things that actually make a difference. And I don't have the stress of inputting all this stuff into a spreadsheet or uploading all these things and thinking about all this stuff. And it's such tedious work that absolutely 100% needs to get done, but it does not absolutely 100% need to get done by you, right? So it just needs to get done. So as you were kind of, and I love the tip with the color thing. I do almost that exact same thing when I was hiring VAs. I was doing it a little bit more often before, and it was like a immediate separation of who was actually paying attention and who wasn't. And I put it in the middle of it, so I know that you read the entire thing. And sometimes it's a color, sometimes it's your favorite town, sometimes it's whatever. But I make sure that somebody puts it in the title of the email that they send me. And if it's not in the title of the email and they just write it in the body of the email, sorry, you're gone as well. Like I need to know that you can. Like I am not your detail guy. I understand details, I know details, but I need you to be my detail person. So
we are visionary business owners who are not very good with the details. And if that person doesn't get the details, they are not the right fit for us.
They're not making it here, because I care about all the details, but man, oh man, do I hate dealing with them. I care about them very much so. Like I love running numbers. I love being able to analyze, but that doesn't mean that I want to be the one like actually putting all this stuff in. So, so as you kind of built out, your team now looks very different, right? You said you've got it to a point now where you're not doing as much work inside of that actual business. So how did you kind of structure to go to like the actual like systems and processes? Like, what does your team look like now to run all of these systems so that you're not doing a whole lot?
So now my team looks totally different. So when we first went from that executive assistant, like we went full on, eventually grew a team of over 35 people, had a massive team. We're having weekly meetings with each department, whether it was sales, marketing, admin team. And it was a lot to manage. And one of the things that my wife and I did is we looked at each other and we said, this is just not the business that we want. I feel like every entrepreneur has this part of their journey where they grow their business and they get to a certain point and they're like, okay, I either don't want to grow it anymore because that would mean more time for me in the business, or it would mean more management, right? And so that's kind of like the point that we got. And so what we did is we realized there was a lot of redundancy to the hires we made and that we could consolidate all that. And so we brought our team down to probably 5 or 6 people. Right? From 35 to like 5 or 6 people, right? And not only did it allow us to make more money, but at the same time, it allowed us to take home and keep more of the money that we made. So that was like a really big thing for us. So now what our team looks like is I have an executive assistant who also is my marketing assistant. So what she does is she's responsible for downloading all of our motivated seller lists, skip tracing them, get the phone numbers for those, uploading them to a dialer. So that way my cold call team can make those calls and they can deliver motivated sellers to our sales team every single day, right? So my sales team is one person basically who picks up the phone and makes calls to sellers, gets deals under contract. And now he actually is also the same person that sells those deals too. He has an assistant called a disposition assistant. And basically he helps him with a lot of the marketing of the deals, like posting deals in Facebook groups. He takes care of responding to all those negative comments that you get on deals when you typically post
Negative
them in
comments
Facebook
never
groups.
happen. I don't know what you're talking about.
And he protects the mindset of my sales rep, right? So I have that. And then outside of that, we have a call center manager that oversees 5 cold callers. And basically they're the ones that are making the calls and bringing hot opportunity to our team every day. And that's kind of like what our team looks like now.
Awesome. Now, how long did it take you to kind of iterate to that, to go from that 35 down to the 6? And how did you realize which ones of those you could cut and which ones you couldn't? Because when somebody's trying to scale a team, whether you're going up or whether you're cutting it back, both of those are very difficult tasks to figure out how to really do that. How did you mentally get through some of this combining of people and positions?
Yeah. So all we did is we basically took a look at the types of position that was being done and the skills that an individual person had, right? So for example, my admin assistant, she was really good with details. And so we said that she'd probably be good at handling the marketing stuff too. And so we just refined our systems and processes to make it to where it was something that would not take her very much time to be able to do, and she could do both. And so that was a really big eye-opener for us, as she could actually handle more. We gave her more hours. She was happy and all was good, right? The biggest shift, I think, was taking a position that was once split, which was having someone that puts deals under contracts with sellers and only talks to sellers, and then have someone that only sells the deals the company brings in to buyers, right? And combining that in one position. That was a really big switch, because there's also a mindset difference between the two positions. So the person that we have, he just did really good with it. He was our best sales rep. We've had him for probably 7 years, I want to say, like probably 5 or 7 years. And he just knew the business inside and out and said, this is what I want to do. And of course, he gets paid a lot more. So he gets paid on when he puts the deal in a contract, and he also gets paid on when he gets the deal sold too. So combining that position just made the most sense for us, with the direction that we wanted to head.
That's awesome. So, I think you said you are working all of this with your wife, right? So what has been her involvement, and what has been, I'd love to hear kind of how you see her perspective in scaling and building these things. Because there's some multiple husband and wife teams out there that don't work well, multiple that work wonderfully. It sounds like yours has been working really well. So I'm kind of curious, like, what sort of balance does she bring in for you in the business side, the management side, and like leading this team of people to a successful business?
Yeah. So I love this question, because when Heather and I first started, Heather's my wife. So when we first started, we butt heads a lot, because both of us have like A-type personalities, right? So whenever it came time to make decisions or do things or change things, we'd always kind of like butt heads, right? So it really took hiring a business coach for us to understand like how to really work together and leverage each other's strengths. So something that we implemented into our business is called EOS, and that's the Entrepreneur Operating System by 𝗔𝗽𝗽𝗀𝘀𝘁𝘀. He wrote the book called Traction, and that's a really tough thing to implement by yourself. I do not recommend anybody trying to implement that by themselves. I tried it, failed horribly with it, and then so we ended up hiring a coach and became EOS certified. Now we run all of our own meetings and all that. But the biggest thing that we took away from that business coach was how to work with each other, that each person has their own unique strengths. And it's important to recognize those, but also understand like where your weaknesses are, right? So you can hire out your weaknesses and double down on your strengths. So my position in the business, I'm the visionary mind. I have the big ideas. I set the goals, right? I say, this is what we want to accomplish. And what Heather's role is the integrator, someone who says, that's a great vision, right? Here are some issues that I see with that vision. Here are some obstacles that we're going to face along the way. Let's tighten this up and put it into like a concrete plan. So she takes my big vision and then puts it on paper and makes it a plan to follow, right? So she almost has a different way of doing things. She's a detail person. I'm really not. Right? I'm the visionary. She's the detail person. But together, when you have a visionary and an integrator together, that's like an amazing combination where you can do awesome things.
Yeah, absolutely. I love EOS, and I think it's a massively valuable tool. And I also recommend to bring somebody in to do it. Bring an implementer in to help you implement it into your company. We tried to do it ourselves too, and it was it's a mess because you're stuck in your own brain on where it's at and how you've been doing things. And when you can have somebody that can look at it from a 30,000 foot view, break it down, help you understand what you're not seeing because you've been living in the woods for so long, like they can help you see everything. It's a game changer for sure.
And it's also important that you implement that at the right time as well, because I see people want to implement this too early. Like for us, for example, we needed structure and organization. And in order to grow to 7 figures, like you need structure and organization. You can't scale random activities, right? And so when we got to the 500,000 mark, we were just like, we need structure and organization because we can't grow this anymore unless we have that. And that's what we needed. And so that's really what allowed us to grow past that. So if you're someone who's just starting out, if you're listening to this, you're brand new, haven't done your first deal yet, maybe you're doing a couple of deals and you're not getting that consistency, you really don't need EOS. You probably need a coach to get that framework. But there's going to be a point where you get to probably $500,000 and then you're like, okay, I need structure, organization, systems, and processes. And that's where it really makes sense to bring it in, because then you really have to have that planning aspect and your numbers really dialed in at that point.
I love it. So I want to shift gears a tiny bit and go into maybe some tools that you use. What are some of your favorite tools for making sure that whether it's recording SOPs, whether it's tracking everything that your team is doing, what are some of your favorite tools that you use inside of your company to make sure that you're understanding the whole, besides, I mean, you already mentioned EOS, so that's one big one, but some of the other tools that you use?
Yeah. So there's 3 tools that we use that help our team stay like really organized. So number 1 is 𝗦𝗽cie𝗁𝗀𝗃. That is a software that is specifically for implementing EOS in your business and keeping track of everything. So that's been really good. The second tool that I feel is very valuable for us is Asana. Asana is a project management tool, if anybody hasn't heard of that. And basically it allows you to create tasks and attach trainings to those tasks and then assign them to specific team members. So that way they can have their own dashboard or they can see all the stuff they need to do. You can make recurring tasks weekly, daily, monthly, whatever. So for example, for my marketing assistant, we create an entire workflow for her where she can kind of log into Asana and she can see the tasks right now that she has to knock out this week. And then she just checks them off and the tasks don't show up again until it's the next time that they're going to be due again. So that really helps with that workflow so they can understand that. And then I would have to say the next tool that's been really helpful is MindMeister. So that's a mind mapping software. And when you are starting to grow or you're starting to outsource things, visual map, like a visual map or flow of how the process goes in a business is like really, really critical for that person to succeed. You need to have something that they can print or put on their desk and they can see, okay, phase 1 or step 1, do this, step 2, do this, step 3. You can have these little squares and label them. And then they can just kind of see the process flow, how they get from beginning to end of a certain task. So I think those three softwares have been really great for us. And then of course, using AI. So we use a software called POE.com, and it has like all the different AIs that you could possibly use, ChatGPT, Claude, all those under one umbrella. And so that's also really helpful for my assistant because it allows me to get more output from her without her working more hours.
There's a couple of these, MindMeister and Poe, I've not heard of before, so I'm going to try to dig into those a little bit if we can for a couple minutes. So talk to me about MindMeister a little bit more. You said you kind of put some stuff into it, and it helps you kind of build a visual roadmap for the business. Tell me what that, like, when you say put some stuff into it, are you just like basically casting your vision inside of a text, and then it kind of helps build it, or how does this work?
Yeah, so I'm sure lots changed on AI. Maybe that you can do something like that now, but for us, when we first started using it, basically it's kind of like drag and drop. So you have this canvas, right? An online canvas that you have like circles and squares that you can drag from the left to the right, and you can put them on the canvas and you can just label it like step 1, do this. So you could label the chart. You could say something like, for example, marketing list process. Right. And then basically you have a square that says, download list from batch leads. That's a square, right? And then there's an arrow coming off that square to the next square that says filter spreadsheet by X, Y, and Z, right? And then the next one says, and so on until you get to the end of that specific task. Sure, if you want to be simple, you could probably put this in like a Word doc and just go step 1, step 2, step 3. But I don't know, the visual aspect is really always connected with people from what I've seen.
I love it. I'm a visual person for sure. I like to map it all out, but I map it in my brain and I can just kind of picture it in my brain. But me putting it on paper, it looks like chicken scratch. So something like that would probably help me out a little bit.
It also really helps too with like lead flow too when marketing. So like, okay, this is what happens when a lead comes into the company. Step 1, our sales team reaches out to it. Step 2, if they don't reach the person, they call them 3 times and then they move them to this phase. Like that's really helpful for just mapping out processes in the business.
Awesome. What is your favorite? Do you have your own callers, right? Do you have an auto dialer, like hammering all that out for your callers, or what are your favorite tools there that you use tactically?
Yes. So the dialer that we use is Batch Dialer, and I love it because it's very simple. It's a triple line dialer. And so basically for those listening who don't know what that is, it's basically a piece of software that allows you to call multiple people at the same time. And when one person connects, it disconnects the other people. And then from there, you have a conversation. So it makes it a lot faster to reach people when you are calling through a list of motivated sellers.
Awesome. I didn't even know that was a thing because I don't do cold calling, so I don't know anything about that. So it'll dial 3 numbers. So that would probably explain why sometimes I get some of those phone calls that are gone after like the first ring because somebody else already picked up. And does this automatically leave a voicemail, or is it just they'll call that person back again?
So you can set up voicemails. We don't like to do voicemails on cold, unsolicited outreach. The reason for that is because you want to use curiosity to your advantage. Because if you see a phone number that you don't know with an area code matching your area calling you and you miss that call, you're like, what was that? And you're going to try and call them back, right? And so you call them back and that's going to come back to one of our cold call reps and they're going to be like, hey, I did miss a call. I did just try to call you. Anyway, I was just calling to see if you had if you own the property off of 123 Main Street. I'm like, well, yeah. Okay, well, we're a local home buyer in the area and wanted to see if you consider a cash offer on your property there, right? So, but if you're leaving that voicemail, like you're allowing that person to disqualify you themselves, right? So we don't want that. We want to disqualify people, not have them disqualify us. So we don't do that. And then if you leave voicemails, you kind of also open yourself up to liability as well, because God forbid you have your dialer set up wrong and you call someone 3 times in a day and you leave 3 voicemails, they can report you and probably like try and sue you or something. So
yeah, especially today. I mean, we are in a sue happy country, so be aware of that. Awesome. So as you've kind of built that whole system out, are you trying to continue to scale that? Because I know you also have the education side of the house, right? So which one are you more focused on now? Is it the education side, or is it the scaling of your own personal side?
So we kind of have a hybrid thing going on right now. So we're really passionate. Like, sure, I like getting deals. But to me, another deal is just like another deal. But if I can help someone brand new to real estate land their first deal, like that fires me up more than any other deal that I could get myself, right? And so we still do our own deals to stay relevant, and then also to, make sure that we're understanding a lot of the local changes that are taking place, because there's a lot of changes going on with wholesaling, right? But the majority of our focus right now is on coaching our clients and then growing that, because we really want to impact more people. There's so many people out there that struggle with getting the right guidance. I spoke to a lady yesterday. She was really frustrated because, her coach like overpromised and underdelivered. They said, oh, if you come on board, you'll get X, Y, and Z and this, that, and the other. She signs up and then she doesn't get she can't get her questions answered. It's been 3 weeks till she gets a certain question answered. So it's crazy. And I hear this every single day. So there's a huge need out there for good coaches in this space who actually really care about helping people land their first deal. And that way they can finally have the success they're looking for. So outside of that, we also joint venture a lot with our coaching clients. So it's really a win-win because we have cash buyers nationwide. So we just love doing the business and then showing people how to do it too.
That is fantastic, Chris. I love that you brought your skills. You proved your ability to be able to do it. You're continuing to show that, and now you're passing that on to folks trying to get in the game. So I appreciate that you're doing that. Chris, I thank you so very much for jumping on. It was awesome kind of sharing some of your tools and how you've kind of built out the processes and what you're looking at. If folks are hearing you and they want to reach out to you for one thing or another, what's the best way for folks to get a hold of you?
Yeah, the best way to reach out to me is on Facebook. My username is Chris Logan REI. It's the same across all the social media platforms to make it easy. And on my page, I actually have a link to a free group called Virtual Wholesaling Made Simple, where we show new wholesalers how to go from zero, struggling and frustrated, to landing their first deal or doing deals consistently. So reach out to me there, shoot me a DM, and I'd be happy to connect.
Awesome. Well, take a look at the show notes. You'll find all of those links and everything down in the show notes. But Chris, thank you so very much for jumping on. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Please like and subscribe. Comment below what your favorite part of this conversation was. And of course, reach out to Chris if he can serve you in any way. So thank you, everybody, listening. Thank you again, Chris, and we'll see everybody on the next show.